Velarde, and today I'm interviewing Dr. David Dighton, a London and Nicosia-based cardiologist. Welcome, David.
Nice to be here, thank you.
Today I would like to ask you about the cholesterol. If my cholesterol is high, does that mean that I'm going to get a heart disease?
Well, blood cholesterol is a bit difficult because it's been shown that in large groups of people, it's true. You can say that if you take the whole of the city of Larnaca or Birmingham in England, and the average cholesterol is higher than it should be, there will be more heart attacks in that city than there will be in a city where the average is a low cholesterol. But when it comes down to an individual like yourself, it's far less clear. In fact, it's a pretty useless test in an individual.
The people you've seen with the heart attacks, does they have a higher cholesterol?
Well, in my experience, which is quite long now, I've never been impressed that people with heart attacks have a high cholesterol. It doesn't seem really to be a very good test at all, unfortunately. Some people have said that, it's not the total cholesterol, which is what you're referring to, but these other bits of cholesterol, the good and the bad cholesterol, which I'll explain if you want.
What do you mean by good and bad cholesterol?
Well, it gets a bit technical, but I'll try and explain it. The bad cholesterol are these very small particles of cholesterol called low density lipoprotein. They're like, imagine that they're like little golf balls. The protective cholesterol, or the good cholesterol, is called high density lipoprotein, or HDL. And if you imagine that they are footballs, so the good cholesterol, being large lumps of good fat, get these little golf balls to stick to them, and then the whole lot goes out through the liver. So the idea is that the protective cholesterol mops up the bad cholesterol and takes it out. Now, in my experience, this HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, is usually quite high in people that do not have heart attacks, and it can be quite low in people that do. So if it's low, you don't have the protection, and that does seem to work somehow. An illustration here for you which might make it simpler. The HDL cholesterol here is shown as large balls, and the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, the small balls, and these stick together.
I sense that you do not like this idea much of good or bad cholesterol.
Yeah, I found in my practice that they don't really help me to decide whether a patient's got heart disease or not. It's okay in groups, so if a government wants to know about the heart attack risk in a city, it can look at the cholesterol levels. But with one patient sitting in front of me, their HDL cholesterol or their LDL cholesterol or their total cholesterol is not going to really tell me very much. What I really need to know is their family history. Have they got heart disease in their family? That's really important because 1 in 4 of the children will get it. And I want to know if their arteries are furring up with cholesterol. Now, the furring of cholesterol in the arteries is something to do with the cholesterol within the arteries, within the blood, but not entirely, because we now know that more than 90% of the cholesterol that forms in an artery, which gives rise to angina, which gives rise to heart attacks, is actually made by the artery. It's not the stuff in the blood that settles like snow that causes it. So let me show you some actual illustrations of this furring process, which is made up of cholesterol, but also it's made up of chalky material, actually it's bony material, and also of fibrous or scarring material. Now on the left hand side you'll see a tube. There's a white bit at the bottom, and then above that a black tube and a lump just to the left. Now that is a lump of cholesterol within the artery. That means that this person is furring their arteries. To the right, a slightly more complicated slide, but you can see this black tube running through the middle and white bits both above and below. These are actually lumps of cholesterol, chalk, bony material and fibrous tissue within the artery walls, and this is the dangerous stuff. This is far more important than knowing a patient's blood cholesterol. In fact, if you take 100 people with this furring process, only 60 of them will have abnormal cholesterol levels. So from my point of view, given that this furring is the cause of heart disease, the blood cholesterol level is almost useless.
Why is finding furring better than a blood test for cholesterol?
Well, because the actual cause of angina and heart disease, coronary artery disease and heart attacks is the furring of arteries. That's the actual cause. The blood cholesterol doesn't cause this. It's the actual furring within the arteries, which I showed you in the illustration, which is the cause. And therefore, if we find the actual cause present in the person, we can predict a heart attack or heart trouble in 1 in 4 of them. So if you have artery furring, the chances are 1 in 4 that you'll develop some heart incident within about 5 years. Now that's a very high risk. You can't ascribe that risk to just blood cholesterol. It's just simply not good enough for cardiologists to look at the blood cholesterol alone. It's a bad test, really, in modern terms.
Can this furring be reversed?
As far as I'm concerned, it can't be. I've been watching people now for nearly 15 years and I've never seen it reverse. But there was one bit of research that showed it reduced by 1% a year using a statin drug. That means it would take 100 years to reverse, I presume, 1% every year. So it would take 100 years to reverse. So I think in practical terms, we have to prevent it growing rather than reverse it.
And can the furring be controlled?
Yeah, we definitely know that a statin drug in the right dose can stop its growth. And that's really what I want to know, because if we have done a bypass operation on somebody, a coronary bypass, or we've put stents in their arteries, what we want to know from then on is, have we stopped the progressive furring of their arteries? Now we know that in the right dose, statins will do this, and I hope my supplement, Heart Sense, will also contribute to it. But we do know that a statin drug in a dose that's 2 or 3 times higher than lowers the blood cholesterol, because it's easy to lower the blood cholesterol with a statin, but in 2 or 3 times that dose, it will actually stop the progress of the furring, which is what we're after.
I would like to turn now to the cholesterol in the food. Is it a danger to us?
Well, you might think so. I mean, it seems logical that if you eat food with cholesterol in it, which then raises your blood cholesterol, that it might give you heart disease. Now that's a theory that goes back to the 1970s. The reason it is wrong is that the arteries grow their own cholesterol, and probably to an extent of 90% or more. So the food you're eating isn't doing that much to the artery. It may raise the blood cholesterol a little bit, but it doesn't have that much influence on the artery itself. What makes furring grow in arteries, the cholesterol to form in arteries, is probably genetic, much more than it is food. I would say it's 95% genetic and maybe 5% food, but that's a guess. We don't know.
You mean some people can eat anything that they like?
Well, I think they can if their arteries are okay. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I've got a good family history and my cholesterol's okay and my arteries are completely unfurred. So yeah, I eat what I like, really. I don't really worry too much about these bad things, which are the fats and the chocolate and the cheese and the eggs, because my arteries are okay. But if your arteries are furred, that is people with heart attacks in their past, or they've got angina, or a strong family history of heart disease, then they have to ask the question, are my arteries furred? And if they are furred, you have to watch those substances which might make it worse. But it isn't just cholesterol. It's more to do with saturated fats, that's the actual animal fat, pork fat, the fat in lamb, cheese and dairy produce. That will perhaps contribute more to the furring, but the cholesterol as such, the things that's in prawns and shrimps, it's cholesterol, but it doesn't do much harm as such. There's very little of it anyway in food.
So before I eat more of cheese or ice cream, I should know if I had a artery furring.
Ideally, yes. And then if you have a good family history and you have nothing in your family, then it might be quite safe for you to eat as much chocolate, cheese and ice cream as you like. Not that I'm saying you should, I think everything in moderation, but I think it would be a lot safer than somebody who had a strong family history or has had angina or has had a heart attack or a bypass operation. They have to be very careful.
So am I right in thinking that my genes are more important than a diet?
I think so. I think all machines, including biological machines, are based on a blueprint. And unfortunately, if you have bad genes, if you've, say, both your parents had heart attacks, then you'd be very unwise to eat these fatty things. But if you've no family history of it, in other words, your genes are good, then I think you can probably get away with all that sort of stuff. You know, you can eat as much as you like, really, probably. But again, everything must be in moderation. But to answer your question specifically, yes, I think the genetic component is 95% and diet is probably only 5%. It could be a few percentage either way, but that's roughly what it is.
Is it right that statin helps furring?
Yeah, we're very sure that statins are good drugs to stop the furring process. They also probably stop the clotting process as well, which is important in the generation of heart attacks. The only problem is the side effects. You know, 1 in 3 people get muscle aches and pains, and they really stop taking it on their own accord because the symptoms are so bad.
So before I have my ice cream, shall I take a statin drug?
It's a good idea, probably. Somebody has actually suggested that we all take an aspirin, a statin, and a few other drugs, 2 other drugs, in one pill every day, regardless. The idea is it will save governments a lot of money because it will lower the cholesterol, lower the blood pressure, stop clotting, and that we'll have far fewer heart attacks, which will then be cheaper for the government. But I'm sceptical, as many doctors are, because you might be treating people that don't need treatment. I prefer to screen the individuals and tell them on an individual basis whether or not they need a statin before their ice cream. So before I answer your question, I'd need to test you.
All that remains is to thank you for watching and Dr. David Dighton coming to help us understand about cholesterol in food, blood and the arteries.
Thank you for asking me.
This is Ilona Velarde saying goodbye for now. And please note that our other videos explains about other heart symptoms. If you would like to have more information about this subject, why not buy or download our Heart Sense book, which is easy to read and contains useful information about the heart and the best diet to eat. In case you would like to read something more technical, you can buy our Eat to Your Heart's content book from our websites. And you can also download this very short brochure, Worried About Your Heart, which explains many details about heart problems and which is available in 4 languages: English, Greek, German and Russian. Don't forget to purchase our Heart Sense supplement, which is essential to even the best diet. Soon we will also have Heart Sense tablets, which will be available on our websites. All our products and information are available on our websites, heartsense.com.cy and thecardiaccenteruk.co.uk.